All right, great. Well, thank you very much for inviting me to this Oracle's, your initial one. I'm very flattered. And when I was asked what to talk about, I thought, well, innovation comes about from a variety of different directions. And I thought I'd talk about mine because firstly, it's very simple and straightforward. This is my financial interest. I work with Bausch & Lomb as a monitor for their lasers. And I'm going to be discussing femtosecond laser cataract surgery. I thought the Oracle's concept was a really good one because this is a way to illustrate how innovation comes about it can be through new technology, which we've heard about today. It opens new doors. An example would be computer processing power. When that increases, our ability to do things increases, and we've got now the advent of machine learning and artificial intelligence that's probably the next new thing. Sometimes technology elsewhere can result in cross-fertilization to another area. So the excimer laser is a classic example of that. It was used in industry. And then, people went and investigated, figured this could be used for eye surgery as well. And that, you can see the results of that. And then sometimes there are things that happen quite by accident. And this is my story. So we just heard about capsular laser, which is a great technique with a manual capsular access has really revolutionized cataract surgery. And we have the femtosecond laser, which is a bit expensive, but actually it's not that bad if you do it on everybody. The economic argument is a different one altogether. But in all these types of operations, there are challenges. And this is the one that was described by Roberts and company, and there were others that didn't want to really talk about the food poisoning cases, like McDonald's talking about the food poisoning cases. They didn't want to talk about the lenses that got deep sixed in the first few cases of femtosecond cataract surgery. And there's a reason for why this happened. And this is when patients were had conventional, this is another problem we have. We take our reference points, we move them on to new technology, but actually we have to revolutionize what we do. And doing conventional hydrodissection in femtosecond laser cataract surgery can be quite hazardous, as they discovered. And they had lenses that went into the vitreous soon after hydrodissection. There's a reason for this. If you look at Miyake's original paper from 1998, he described capsular block syndrome, where if you inject fluid, hydrodissection, you can sometimes get capsular block and distension of the posterior capsule. It goes into the next phase where the anterior capsule widens and it can eventually tear. You can get a radial tear, or at worst, you can get a posterior capsular rupture and the lens falls into the back of the eye. Well, this is exactly what was happening with femtosecond laser cataract surgery when they hydrodissected. So when we're lasering the capsule, there is, by the second law of thermodynamics, there's going to be some heat generated. And when heat is generated, you get fusion of cortex to the anterior capsule. So this is me doing one of my first 9 cases. And I'm doing exactly what everybody else is doing, making the same mistakes. And you can see the anterior capsule widen. Well, that was really frightening. And that lens was rigidly in the eye. When I did this sort of rock and roll technique that I learned from doing extra capsular days of dissecting that lens by rocking it, and that seemed to relieve things a little bit. Well, I resolved not to do that. Out of the first 9 cases, I had 3 anterior capsular tears from doing this maneuver. I didn't have any deep 6 nuclei. But what I said was, yeah, I'm not going to do that anymore. What I'll do is break up the lens, take out the first piece by shoehorning it, and then continue there. So this is an animation of what takes place. You got fluid going in, it distends, it goes around the other side and stops, and the posterior capsule keeps distending. So here I am. This is where I learned something by accident. I'm taking out that anterior capsule after doing a capsulotomy and fragmentation, and here I'm using this hydrodissection cannula, and I'm using that to break up the lens because I want to break that up and take that first piece out. And by mistake, I injected fluid. You see that bubble started moving. This is the actual case where this happened. And that's interesting. Now, if I did that by mistake, look, the lens is moving. Wow. I hydrodissected through the lens without doing it by intention. So I said, well, I wonder if this can happen every time I do this. So I actually tried it over and over again with the same cannula, and it worked. So, well, actually, this cannula is not designed for this particular purpose. So working with Bausch & Lomb, we designed this translenticular hydrodissection cannula, which is a bit like a phaco chopper, which has got an irrigation port on the end of it. Now, people find it scary, but I don't know why they find it scary. It's only 1.5 millimeters long. The lens, as we know, is between 4.5 and 5 millimeters at its greatest depth. So, you know, being careful, you can do this in every single case, even hard lenses where the peripheral nucleus is soft. You just don't have to go in as deep. But here I'm just, for exaggeration, showing how this little cannula can be used to complete your phaco chop and make surgery a lot easier and take out each fragment at a time. So this is an animation illustrating the process. So here we're injecting fluid. It displaces that air bubble. And if fluid fills up the capsular bag, it comes out through the actual lens fragmentation, as it does not need to try and go out the other way like it does with conventional hydrodissection. So we decided to study this. You know, does it make any difference? Does it make any difference in terms of ultrasound time, average power, and effective phaco time? And what we did was we compared my previous 108 cases of traditional cataract surgery using a manual capsular access to femtosecond laser cataract surgery without translenticular hydrodissection, shoehorning, in other words. And what we found was there was a reduction in average power and ultrasound time and EPT, and it was statistically significant. And then what we did was took our first 108 translenticular hydrodissection cases and compared them to their first 108 done without. And again, we found there was a significant reduction in effective phaco time and ultrasound time and power as well. And you can see this is pretty respectable of 0.52 EPT in those cases. And we published this in JCRS, and we got some contentious responses from a couple of Australians, which we responded to appropriately. This is just to show, using that cannula, the lens is now out after translenticular hydrodissection. A lot of people talk about sticky cortices. Well, here's a great way of removing cortex very, very quickly by doing cortical cleavage after the lens nucleus has been removed. So laser capsulotomies, where we do 100% femtosecond laser cataract surgery, and we're now using capsular laser as well. We find that generally this whole technique is reproducible. It assists lens dismantling, there's less zonular stress, reduces ultrasound EPT. And you know, I think that the value of fragmentation is probably underestimated, especially in harder lenses. And there are many newer studies showing a reduction in posterior capsular rupture rates. And we have found that ourselves, and it's something that we probably should publish. So looking at what does innovation excite me? Well, it just makes everything reproducible and easier. Yeah, how does it change the life of clinicians? Well, I've just answered that question too. And does it change the life of patients? Well, it makes time in surgery less. There's less stress on zonules, less time in the eye. It can only be good for them. And does it solve a problem? Yes, it solves the problem of deep sixing nuclei and hydrodissection in patients undergoing femtosecond laser assisted cataract surgery. Thank you for your attention.